Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome, viewers. Today I have the wonderful Houston Burrus. Houston is the fourth guest I've had on from the World Marshall Authority. Um, Houston is now an international compliance officer for the WMA, the World Marshall Authority. He's also a deputy bailiff, which is an extension of the chief judge. And in his former life, he's an exceptional artist in all things painting, graffiti, music, audio, photography. He's a man after my own heart because I'm a
Mhm.
singer, songwriter. I'm also love my photography. And he's also a
Mhm.
Scorpion, and I'm a Scorpion too. And it was 2012, I think, really, where Houston, who's never been into having a just over broke, as he called it, which is the job,
Mhm.
always looking for something different. And you mentioned Tupac earlier as well in terms of the music stuff, and we know obviously poor old Tupac got taken out, if that is the truth, for
I
speaking.
wouldn't say he was poor. It seemed to me like he was extremely wealthy,
No,
you
no, I didn't
know.
mean that. I just meant in terms of the music and obviously
But
the
in terms of what happened, it was extremely sad, I
yeah,
would say.
absolutely. Um,
Hmm.
and I think really in 2012, from what you've told me, that was really where you started to really massively research and open up your awareness to what is going on in the world. So I thought it would be great to have you on because you are the technology expert within the WMA, I understand.
Correct.
So we'd love to know a bit more about that. But in the first instance, welcome very much today, Houston. It's an absolute pleasure to have
Well,
you.
thank you. All right. Greetings.
Okay, so before I go any further, guys, you've been wonderful with your likes and your comments and your sharing. Please continue. It helps me to grow this channel so I can keep having wonderful guests on like Houston. And if you're feeling flush, buy me a coffee / Mel Clark because doing these podcasts and fighting the corrupt system is not very lucrative, let me tell you. So back to Houston. So Houston, we love a backstory here. I'd love to know a little bit more about the younger Houston because obviously you were in you're very creative.
Mhm.
You got into the music side of things. You're a painter. Christ knows what else you did creatively. But in terms of what sort of happened for you that made you
Mhm.
more aware of what is going on in the world or what we believe is going on in the world. So
Right.
a little
I
bit more
believe
background.
that I've always been like in tune, tapped into some greater awareness that you know, something is not entirely what it seems. And even on the opposite side, that things are more grandeur and actually more beautiful than we get a chance to experience. Um, as early as I can remember, I was always extremely curious, Mel. Um, and in fact, it's cool when I think about things that I have all these backstories and references. I remember he was Curious George, and it's funny when you when you have heirs that you can share stuff with them that you experienced and to see their reaction. And for you, it might be like this is cool, this is awesome. To them, they're like, no.
Hmm.
I don't like this. And so but yeah, I was always very curious and I guess you could say a do-it-yourself story. But I had a series of what some might say are, extremely bad news or tragic news or whatever, however you want to paint it. I believe it was 6 or 7 years old. I went into some kind of coma, or like deep sleep. I don't know. Uh, and they, my parents, kind of freaked out. And all I remember was I just woke up one day, and everybody was hovering over me, and I'm just looking like, okay. okay, you guys want to back up a little bit? What is going on? And they're like, he's alive. And I'm like, what else am I supposed to be? But anyways, to boil it down, to your question or to the point is that I was actually diagnosed with narcolepsy at a very early age. They took me in to this, of course, hospital setting, and it took them months to even figure out what was going on. So, and then snowball, all types of things happen afterwards, which you could consider, you know, bad news or whatever, what have you. But what happened to me internally is that curiosity, that spark, that intuition that I already had, it heightened like 1000%. So by the time I was 8 years old, I already had situational awareness, total situational awareness, to the point where I remember adults. I was in fifth grade, and my teacher was giving us a speech, and all I remember was, I'm tired of listening to you talk. My time is being used up. I'm hot. When are we going to lunch? People are hungry. And she said something like, this is Mars. And she showed us a picture of it. And she was like, we can never get there. And then I let her do all her little talking and stuff. After we was getting in line to go to lunch, I said, Miss Such and so, I was like, that's not true what you just said, right? She was just like, what do you mean it's not true? I was like, well, do you know how cameras work? She was just like, quiet. I was like, yeah, they're point and shoot. That means that if you can actually see it, you can go there. You can't take a photo or something you can't go to. That's not how they work. And I was I think this was in the fifth grade. So as I'm saying this, I'm trying to paint a picture that I was very aware very early, and it was 1991 when I actually started to kind of like track the activities going on, with the whole thing with the globalists, the this and that and the other. And I remember, a lot of people have it fresh in their mind, the COVID-19 and all this, but people kind of forget about the little thing called the Gulf War syndrome that happened a long time ago. And it's like we have, almost selective amnesia. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's
So, in terms of when we were talking before we hit record, you were on about, you sort of were in the, you dabbled within the music industry, and
mhm.
I don't know how far you got with that, but it was 2012 when you said your consciousness started to expand even more.
Well, when I was extremely young, I went through what I would call more the spiritual training. When I started to get into my teenage years, you want to call it, that's when I started getting into the expressive side of things, and then also deciding what type of trajectory I wanted to go. As far as maybe somehow alleviate some of these issues, maybe creating some awareness, or whatever I thought I could possibly do to make some kind of difference. And so I did. I've always, like I said, been talented, and I think I did like my first actual rap in like 1995, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just, because we were bored in class. We were in shop class, those guys that love engines and things of that matter, they was in there going away with the ratchets and reading all of the schematics in the books and building engines, literal truck engines. But I mean, I'm like 10, 11, and I'm looking at them like, man, something's going on. What's going on with you? You building an engine at like 11? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? really technical, you had to be into that, and I wasn't. So, I think we was, joking around, and I did a little rap here and there. But later on, I believe it was like 96, 97 is when I actually started to do it uh, in the scene where people knew that I was doing it. Um, and so the thing that we were saying about Tupac earlier is that by me being so, situationally aware or whatever, my friends couldn't even experience the Don Illuminati, album cover with that mystique or that intrigue that everyone else did because they already knew what the Illuminati was. And so when he dropped the album cover, one morning I get my phone is jumping off. I'm just like, what is going on? I'm getting them. They're calling me one after the other. Houston, you know that stuff you was telling us about? Yeah, yeah, I just got the new Tupac album. Hey, he talking about the Illuminati. I said, really? That's why you called to wake me up. Okay, that's good for him. So I think I was 15 when that happened. But so yeah, I ended up learning the machines myself, and then getting a little bit older, 17, 18, and having to, plot a course in a direction. And I had, just tried to do everything myself, and me and some fellows, we had a band, what you would call a band or a rap group or whatever. And we just couldn't really just get it up and running for some reason. It wasn't the music. Everybody heard our music, but it was the music industry that we
Yeah.
couldn't get into. So eventually I just decided to go to school. And that's when I got introduced to a wider array of technical applications, schematics, how to do a signal flow chart, things of that nature. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, so what happened then in terms of like your trajectory to where you are now? Because you're known as the technology expert. You're the international compliance officer at WMA. So how?
So wow, that's a huge story. I'm gonna see if I can do it in 2 minutes just so we can get to that part. Yeah, so what happened is that being a rebel, Mel, as
Yeah.
we are, I thought that I could help wake people up. So around like 13, 14, I know I was think 15, 16, I did a radio show, college radio, and which, I went into, you know, all types of taboo topics at the time. This would have been around 1996, long time ago.
Yeah, a long
And
time ago. Yeah.
I talked about the Committee of 300 and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, and all types of things that a lot of people didn't know anything about. And it caused quite a stir. And after that experience, I started feeling a little type of way about being the whistleblower, And so I just said, you know what? I don't know if this is the right way to do this. So I went into writing songs instead, and which I was already doing, but more or less putting the message in the song. So years went by, and then I met a gentleman that was into clothing, and I had already been into clothing myself for about 5, 6 years because when I was an artist, that was one of the things that I like to do. I like to design clothes. A lot of artists, uh, traditional artists, they get into figurines, the female figure. This is part of your training. You actually draw people live. But what I like to do is to draw clothing lines rather than the figurine, as a part of my training. So when the music started to wane off and not really pan out, by this time, I believe, my first daughter was born. And I'm starting to feel a little bit of like squeeze, pressure. You know, I went into some not too far, but a different part of me as an artist, and I went into clothing, which I loved. I loved every aspect of that journey. But that journey during that time is when we got up to 2017, around the time when we had the XRP and all this stuff come out, cryptocurrency and all this thing. And initially, I would say I started that journey around 2012 because I thought that maybe some of my higher functioning ability could translate into what they call money, right? So I attempted it, and around 2017, what happened is I just got with a group of guys, cordially, casually talking about, you know, uh, charts and crypto and whatever was popular in 2017, Bitcoin, Ripple, uh, what is actually happening. And then it was more of a dialogue. We weren't looking for anything. We were just trying to put our heads together to try to comprehend, wrap our heads around it. So um and it was at that time when I got kind of a more clear view of where this was going. And I saw it and I said, wait, this is going. And I said, oh my, this is gonna be huge. And so I kind of, during this whole time, you got to comprehend that, my family, as far as I'm concerned, is already on pins and needles because I'm out the gate at 6, 7 with alarms, emergencies, emergencies every 5 minutes, So, it's kind of like that temperature, So at the time when I did another, kind of thing, they was like, they heard me, but they wasn't really hearing what I was saying. And I had already started developing that kind of ick feeling whenever you try to bring people who aren't necessarily vibrating at that higher realm, into that kind of stuff, because I already had so many previous experience of it going sour, the church, all that I tried, all that, and it just didn't. It was something about people would like to be more so comforted than actually enlightened.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, y'all need hugs. Where's that ministry? Like this is not I need to be as you say, never settle and a rebel and push to the light at the end of the tunnel. This is not what y'all are signing up for. It feels to me, as someone who started at such a young age, that y'all need hugs. Y'all are asking to be comforted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyways, let's fast forward to 2020, 2021.
Okay, so 2022, did you say?
So yeah, right around the time that all the COVID-19 activity hit. Um, I was actually distracted because I was so deeply embedded in the heart of the tapestry of what was going on that, people were making decisions and processes were being uh, enacted. And it just so happened that all those years of me being, you know, active and pursuing nothing but, enlightenment led me right to that to be dead in the middle of all of that. So I had met someone through a friend of a friend, as I was doing, clothing. And that individual was extremely outgoing and extremely knowledgeable. And I'm not going to say a name on here. But, you know, I had done a few podcasts, as I said, I did some radio shows. People kind of generally knew me as the person who you go to if you really want to know, but most people didn't take me up on that. But I don't know if it was like they were watching me for a certain period of time or what happened, but someone initiated a conversation and said, contact this person. And I did. And I was basically introduced to, I guess, what you would call the plug. Some of these terminologies I'm going to use are maybe like Aboriginal to American culture stuff. So y'all have to keep up. But I I talked to a gentleman who was very knowledgeable as I was about cryptocurrencies, you know, the state of political turmoil at the time, economic wise, and so forth. So he introduced me to another gentleman whose name I'm not going to say, but people in the WMA know. And he was quite taken by the fact that I was already involved with no one, as I had been in everything. He was like, "You talk to so and so? Oh man, okay. So if he and he was like had people in this background, if he talked to so and so, he's already in this. He just don't know us." And so at around early 2021, I say around February, I was introduced to what people may commonly know as the World Leaders Forum. All right. And it was at that time when I was uh, what I thought was engaged in people who are active and had some sort of solution or a capability to create a solution that everyone could get behind. And so I did that for several months until all of a sudden there was a strange shift. Now, mind you, I can't even tell you all the amounts of different uh, uh, the exposure that I had because it was almost like 122 groups. If you was led into the World Leaders Forum, you was in a chat group that was in another chat group and another one and another, and it opens all up at once, or at least it did for me. I don't know.
What's the World Leaders Forum? For people that don't know.
So this is kind of like a group that is loosely associated with I would say like a pageant type of thing. Like let's groom people to be world leaders.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's kind
Yeah.
of like I wouldn't say it's a fraternity, but it's more so like an organizational structure, right? And then if you go up the ranks and you do good, you get involved with projects and these type of things. Anyways, without getting too deep into that, um, I had already knew a lot about what was going on, and these topics came up in these groups. And so I started to see how they were handling or how they would deal with these topics. And everything was fine for me. It was all like a dream. So I didn't experience the psychological bombardment that everyone else had about COVID because I was busy. I was busy every day with these groups, with uh, problem solving, general creating general problems, not problems, but general solutions for problems on a regular basis. Uh, my phone pinging like it does now, you know. And but the point I'm making is that around the end of 2021, going into 22, there was a divide, and as that divide happened, I was put in a moral question type of scenario where I had to make a call because there was some strange behavior with some of the people that were over top of me in those groups. And I was getting messages from people that I didn't know, and they was reaching out to me. And first of all, when you're in these groups, there's over 8,000 people. So I'm trying to figure out why you messaging me. There must be a humongous managerial structure that you could. Why are you talking to me? So that kind of piqued my interest. So that I was getting these messages from people with complaints about certain behaviors. But anyway, let me boil this down. Long story short, I started finding out that there was a lot of funny activity going on. And so I went into several months of investigation, kind of like, you know, just keep your eyes open type of stuff. Anyways, that's how I ended up meeting General Belty. During that process, uh, our paths kind of just crossed because of me kind of like shaking the trees to find out, is there any validity to these claims that these people are sending to my phone? You
And
see what I'm saying?
can you give us an idea of what one or two of those claims were?
Stolen money, uh, instruments being used without permission. People were extremely upset. You know, it's a lot of weird stuff. At one point in time, I was even given it's like a soft military command structure, I'll be honest with you. Someone gave me a task, call it task force for like young people or whatever. Somebody gave me a task to find out who was Alan Greer, I believe it was.
Stephen Greer,
Stephen Greer. Yeah.
the UFO guy.
Yeah. And I said, I know who that is because, you know, I've basically been in that world since like 1992. Um, and so they asked me, is this guy legit or something to that nature? And I was like, well, I don't know what you mean by legit, but everyone in this field knows who this is. If you ask Art Bell or George Norrie, they know who this is. So then they were like, is okay. So you telling me this guy knows his stuff. And I was like, well, I'm telling you, if you don't know your stuff, you ain't gonna be able to understand nothing he's saying. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of a situation like that, but it was weird though to me to be in this kind of at this level and have that question. I said, man, something is going on, man. What is going on? You know, so that's just a, you know, I know you. I got so many stories. They,
And so you and General Belton met around a similar time.
it was around 2022. He was actually very active. I want to say you won't meet anyone that's out moving, out maneuvering. His drive is incredible. Just mhm. And there was a security matter that was ongoing, and I believe that I just ended up some kind of way assisted him with that because I seen, the activities across the screen. And I was like, oh, he's trying to get to the bottom of this. So I believe he asked me to do a couple things for him as well. And he handled a few matters. So mhm.
Okay. And so this World Leader Forum, is that any relation to the World Economic Forum or anything like that?
Yes, it's the I guess you could say it's like your entry level stuff,
Right.
like yeah, yeah. Like when you was trying to get into a fraternity or a sorority or something like that, you will be introduced to them type of people through just fraternizing, basically. And
And so
before yeah.
how did you get into it? Bearing in mind that you've been researching the alternative stuff for quite a few years at this point, surely the World Leader Forum is like the complete opposite to you as a person.
No, because see, that's what I'm saying. At the time, I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I don't think you see that's the thing about it is that when you get these knowledge and all these information after the fact, you don't get the culture of it. So when you run into individuals that's why I said the story about the Illuminati thing because my friends had gotten the information ahead of Tupac, so it was a different experience for them because they had already been exposed to it. Now with this whole thing with the WEF, everyone has a certain degree of exposure now today, and so they're going to have colored lenses already. But imagine if you had got that exposure back in 2020 or 2021. See, for me, I didn't know what it was. All I knew is that the energy of the people at first felt like people trying to do something about things that I've been trying to warn people about and to do my best for years. And this was nothing new. And they felt the kind of way about me being already active on my own. Some of the things that I was doing and was able to prove to them I was doing, it was shocking. There was like, you doing this by yourself?
Yeah.
And then on a couple occasions, they had to remind me, like, there are thousands of people working on this. They had to kind of like pull me back, like, hey, you're not by yourself. So, but
Okay. So I understand it a bit better now. So basically, you were, I get it because you were like a lone ranger in terms of your knowledge and what you were researching, and I was very similar. Last year when I got myself into hot water with council tax and various other things, and then I met a group of people that have just been there to help and support and guide. And then that's led to other people and more people and different people and all of that sort of thing. So then,
mm-hmm,
then you realize, don't you, just how big this is growing
mm-hmm,
and how, people like the WMA have been fighting the good fight for at least 15 odd years, right? So,
mm-hmm.
um, so when you met General Belton and obviously how did that transpire from you being in this world leader forum, which you thought was okay, and then you start to realize, oh right, okay, not so great, um, to then doing what you're doing now?
Well, as things progressed, I started to get a sense that there was quite a bit of a pre-existing hierarchical structure, right? And when I got a chance to speak with him for more than an hour, see, it was that we were communicating short and short, right? And he knew who I was, I know who he was, but it was short communications. And I was just like there for assistance. If you need help, or if I needed any help, it was that kind of relationship. Good man. vouch man. So but I got a sense after speaking with him for about an hour one day, which was it's just out of the blue. I don't even know what he called me for. I couldn't tell you, but he rang me up and he spoke to me about an hour. Um, I think there was a major investigation going on at that time, and I had shout out to Mel for this journalism, y'all, because I don't know if y'all realize this. Journalism is like people always ask, "What do we do? What are you supposed to do about it?" Well, kind of journalism is baked into the system. You just take out a journal and start writing what's happening. Think about Anne Frank. You know, this is part of the judicial system, common law, right? And so it's just like what you're doing. It was a situation where I had already did the footwork, calling people, doing interviews to find out for these so-called victims whether or not they were lying to me or who it was that stole this money. I think that was the loose subject matter where he called me and we had a decent discussion. And through that discussion, and he was quite upset about some of the things that were going on. Uh, I realized that there was kind of a pretentious or pre-existing hierarchical structure that was overarching the world, and I got kind of like an intuition that Belton was not necessarily part of that plan. And I thought to myself on the spot, they're going to try and sabotage you. So I made a conscious decision right at that moment. This was in 2022, that if I got the opportunity, I would do everything I could to make sure that that didn't happen. And ironically, we talked and things happened, and it wasn't 2 years later that I actually got that opportunity. But that's what happened.
And so Belton was in the World Leader Forum. Is that right?
No,
Yeah.
no, not that I know of. I mean, and we never had any conversation about that. But when you talk about high level access and activities, he was already operating up at that high level, UN, uh, international law. You see,
Right.
common law, which is up above, actually above it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. And
And
so there was already people around him, and it was, I'm just saying to you, Mel, it was so much going on that I didn't feel COVID, if that makes sense to you. I didn't feel it. All the people crying and people dying, and I didn't get a chance to pay attention. I was literally involved in stuff happening every few minutes, and it was wild.
so how did all that sort of conclude then, in terms of you were in the midst of some crossfires going on and now here you are with the WMA?
Well, I think that, if you look at what you see on social media, you get the concluded version. I'm giving you, as it was happening back then for me, for I,
Yeah.
you see, and you can draw inferences and, extract information by seeing what's happening now. But essentially, you know, most of this stuff already pre-existed. A lot of it's from 1950. Uh, you see, and what has happened is that now there are the road map that they intended has split into two maps. You see, and as a result of what it is that we have done, and about 90% of that effort was the chief judge. There is an alternate version, okay? And this is not something that it pre-existed. Uh, when I did a radio show in '96, uh, I didn't know anything about the alternations. I had not heard anything about an integrity market or the good guys. We always heard the good guys win, but we didn't realize it was the bad guys telling us that the whole time. You see? So, when you take a look at these things and you do your digging and research, and if you like this interview enough to kind of dig into what I'm saying, you will see that around 2024, some changed. I would say earlier than that. I would say around March of 2023, but something changed. But Belton will tell you it was 2005 when it actually changed. Yeah. So yeah.
And when you say change, do you mean this a whole Agenda 21, or are you referring to something else?
Yeah, I'm referring to the map.
Yeah.
I would, and instead of getting into all of the technical 2021, then you got the 2030 plan agenda, and then you got all of these other things that, as a technician, and as um, a Aboriginal martial law officer, I'm supposed to know, what I'm saying? But and it's more so as a technician, because a lot of this has to do with development. You see, strategic development.
So, for anybody listening today, listening to this conversation, and obviously there's been a couple of podcasts already from people in the WMA to give different slices of where they're at with things. What was it about the WMA that made you want to become the deputy bailiff, that made you now be their, compliance officer, their international compliance officer?
So what's happening is these concepts that actually originated law are coming back in law. It's these structural implications for me I had never seen. It is that you are already, as the one who has the divine spark, you are already the law. You're already that. It's called common law or the law of nature, right? Now, but you when you get into these things that everyone is so wrapped up in and everybody's learning about for the first times, and it's like almost like a drug, people are like, woo, woo, look at the new thing, and people have podcasts on it, and people are publications on it, and what happened with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all that. I did all that back when I was 15, around 20 something. I had already, some of my friends couldn't even experience 9/11 the way the rest of y'all did, because they already knew about it. One of my best friends, when it happened, he said, yo, cut on the TV. He got a call. He said, buildings are blowing up. He said, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. Turn that off. And the reason he said that is because I had already told him they was going to do that. He didn't want to look at it. And then he started tearing up, and he looked at me and he said, I can't believe that they did what you said they was going to do. What kind of world do we live in? And I said, that's the reason why we doing what we doing, trying to make a difference. Because you could have people that plan this stuff 50 years in advance and do it. You see?
Yeah.
So what happened with alternations in WMA and when Belton stepped up is a lot of the original tenets, the original intention behind so-called law and order came back. And it came back in a way which pushed them so much that it almost halted them indefinitely. You see? And that's the reason why I joined, because I was like, wow, I never would have dreamed, if you could have talked to me when I was 22 and told me this stuff that's happening now, I would have not believed you. I would have said that's not what's going to happen. I'm an expert or a subject matter expert. In my mind, I was. at the time. And I would say, listen, this is the plan. It's called Agenda 21, and it's going to happen like this. And they did up until that part. But 2023 and 2024, it's like, you remember that Transformers movie?
Yeah.
It's like the Allspark came out of the sky and he sent out all these radio frequencies telling them, yeah, you can stand down now because that plan you had, it was a test. See, they think they was testing us when actually they were the one being tested. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
It's deep.
Yeah. Okay. It's nice to know that
Mhm.
Belon said it started to change in 2005.
Oh yeah, because he did it. He physically went in and did what he needed to do. But
mm,
what I'm referring to is the effects started to get felt from their end around March of 2023.
and what was significant of March 23?
I would say if you go to the World Martial Authority.life website and you start reading, and you get this strange feeling as you're reading, and it's almost like a cognitive dissonance feeling, and you feel like this can't be, this ain't real. This is a good copy material, like somebody's a good fiction writer. But this, if this is true, see, it's a if this, then that. That's an actual technical, that's like a like a configuration. If this, then that logic, you won't believe it. Because it'll hit your chest and you'll be like, wait a minute. So if this is fiat fraud, what was my paycheck every 2 weeks? You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If this is the actual law and there are no courts, what why am I paying child support? Wait a minute. So if this is not an actual law officer, but this is more of a policy or a statute maker, how was they able to just murder people on the street? See, it's the if this, then that thing kicks in when you start getting the facts. And that's why I did facts over fiction on social media so that people can get hit with that wave of what I would just say is intrinsic value. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Okay. So where do you see the next 12 months within WMA? What do you predict is going to be any big changes, if there are going to be any big changes in the world in the next 12 months?
Well, I'll just add this onto that last question you said, and then I'll
Yeah.
go into that. uh, it's like when you see the other football team on the field, and then you start realizing this ain't gonna be no easy game. That's what happened in March 2023 when they saw, wait a minute, there's another team. That's what altered nations means, because they had a plan which was forged in the 50s, and they never even imagined there would be an opposing team. That hit them in 2023. Like it hit them like a wave. You see?
Hmm.
Now, what's going on with WMA, or what do I see in the next couple of months? Well, it's a situation where everybody needs to make a choice, but it could be said that no one had a choice at first. But now, I think that the way that it needs to be looked at is that everyone has an individual choice. Are you going to be for an integrity market? Or are you going to continue to go down the road of control and manipulation and misrepresentation, and not fully disclosing or being transparent? Because At the end of the day, you can look at all the law in the world. All it really is just saying is just be fair. You know, I sell you a car for a really decent price. You get the keys, you love it, you checked it out, you had your own people check it out, and you get in it. And I didn't disclose to you that someone was maybe murdered in it, or maybe someone had a baby in it, and you do one of those little white flashy light things, and you say, "What did he sell me?" you know, that's where we at. We're in a situation now where people have to decide what side they want to be on, and there is no middleman. It's almost like a, you want to say, come to Jesus moment. There is nobody who can get in between you and the choice you have to make. This ain't politics. You're not pushing no button. It is an internal choice that you must make. And it don't matter if you uh what are you, a Mason, Shriner, he's a Mufti, you is a 5-star general. None of that matters. It don't matter. People can put pressure on you. I'm gonna take away your die. It don't matter. You have to make the decision yourself. And so within the next couple of months, I see whole nations uh, and banks making the decision within the next few months, if they haven't already. I believe most of them already made their mind up because the strength of law and order is what they use to do what they did. So if that fictional version is so powerful, how powerful is the real thing? See, the if this, then that. And people are going to start scratching their head, even at the high levels like Vatican, because this is a good question. They're going to be like, we saw what we can do when we lie. What is going to happen when we tell the truth? And that's when you're going to start seeing the effects of that happening to the marketplace. And actually, you have. I would venture to say, if you go on social media and you see what's going on with Doge, people saying we're going to investigate this, we want to see the books, we're going to audit that. All of this language, this is what you're talking about. This is what is happening because there is an alternate team. It's no longer just one team. It's two teams. You see? Yeah.
Okay. And so do you think, obviously we're seeing what Trump and Musk are doing, and there's a divide in opinions. The people that thought Trump was the good guy are now probably saying, "Oh, he's just one of them," and this, that, and the other, and you don't know what the real truth is. And I'll be,
Yeah, that's that conspiracy porn.
yeah,
Listen, I'm gonna say it don't matter. I've already been there and done that and accumulated terabytes worth of information about all kinds of stuff. At the end of the day, the only thing matters is which team you're going to be on. Are you an integrity person? Are you a good man or woman, upstanding? When they kicked that lady out on the street in the rain and the cold, did you feel some kind of way in your heart? Where to the point where I'm not over there, in Welsh. But I'm seeing some of these videos and I'm getting frustrated. And I'm like, okay, somebody made an offering today. And that's what it is. They're basically letting you know that I'm on the other side of this line with you, and I want you to show me some love. And that's when you suit up and you give it to them. You see what I'm saying? You
yeah.
know, and it's in the game. what he said, EA Sports. It's in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Just for
Yeah.
clarity for the listeners, he's referring to some videos that we've seen, rapid response in the UK, and they are basically
Mm-hmm.
helping people to not lose their house fraudulently,
Mm-hmm.
and when they have lost their house, to take those houses back. And we've certainly seen the powers that be I don't like calling them that because they're not power at all, but it's brute force and it's miseducated people that think they're doing the right thing because they don't
I
understand.
wouldn't necessarily give it to them, though. Some of them know they're not doing the right thing. You
Some of
got to
them,
think about, even looking with what's happening with all these money that's being exposed, that's going to different places that are basically like saying, oh, they knew they was gonna steal this money because look at how they distributed it. It's not distributed in a way of a person not understanding that this is a crime. No, this is distributed in a way where they knew it was a crime, and then they know how to now disperse it in a way that can't be investigated too easily. You see?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
So the difference now is that we've launched what's called an integrity market. I love this. It puts a
yeah, I like
smile
that.
on my
I
face.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It means that every force, task force, so-called enforcement worldwide now has a choice. And you can choose to go after these criminals worldwide. Yes, and benefit from it because we have a bounty program. Back to common law, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay,
And
cool.
I do venture to say, some of these wives is not going to be happy with their husbands coming home being involved with a lot of this dark stuff.
Mm, mm,
Mm-hmm. And see, you got to think about these strong ones that do these ops and things. They men first before they put them uniforms on. And
yeah.
who wants to come home and your wife and your children don't look you in the eye? See, they never gave us a choice before. Nobody wants to do that. If you want to, you can just easily go. They got Vietnam in HD now on Netflix. If y'all haven't seen it, you can go and you can look at these grown men form tears about how they was received when they came back to their so-called country and people treated them like they treated them. You see, don't no man want to come home and then their wife and children can't look them in the face. Mm-mm.
Mm,
It's not real. It doesn't matter how much the WEF do speeches and all that stuff. You're living in a fantasy land. It's not real. No man wants to do that. And it can be the most powerful man on your staff that can be changed just by his wife.
mm. Okay. Well, before I draw this conversation to a close, if do
We
you
didn't talk about cryptocurrency at all, Mel.
I've been trying to get there and I'm saying, right, so what do you do for the WMA? And you're saying you're not telling me.
So I'm glad that the question came up in this manner. So uh so being a technician, one of the things that kind of sort of like fell in my lap as I put myself in the position by just caring enough to make sure there was no manipulation is that the tokenizing of the assets or the land instruments needed to be done. And I was already deep into this world, and I had ran into some really curious, strange stuff going on with the Bitcoin blockchain and the history of it and who did what, the Silk Road, all these, you know, hint to the listeners. This is where all the gooey stuff is. If you want to really comprehend get a good deep grasp about crypto, you need to go back to Silk Road, go back to Mount Gox, and start digging because this is the reason why I was a good fit for this position. So when we started to do the tokenization, I already knew what the landscape was and what the uh, strategy was of the so-called deep state. See, I knew what they was up to, and I also am one of the few probably technicians in the world that seen their system built already and seen it in concept, not in with my actual physical eyes. It's the concept of it. And so I knew what crypto was. See, a lot of people don't even know what crypto is. It's not money. It's not money. Crypto wasn't built for that. It's just the thing that people are most interested in. So you keep taking it into that. But going back to what it is that I did for belting is that I tokenized his instruments on the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, having doing that, this caused a major ripple. Pun intended. We dropped the asteroid into their plan. A big, nice asteroid, with the smiley face and all that on it.
Yeah.
But so what happened is it created the reality or the circumstance that did not previously exist, which makes their plan completely useless. I mean, like, they're not going to admit it, but it's like, that was a nice idea until it got smashed. And it's pieces now. It's in so many pieces, Mel, I can't tell you. And even the banks, those banks that everybody keeps saying, they're the problem. The banks are the problem, and bankers well, you got to think somebody's telling all these stories. All these plans had an origin from somewhere. And I don't think it was the bankers. It could have been, but could have been somebody higher than the bankers. Anyway, who knows? And maybe we won't know. The point is that when we did what we did, even the bankers have acquiesced, many of them worldwide already, and said, hey, this is much better than what we was just about to do. I was about to push the button. I was out there like this. And then I had a call and I said, oh, my phone ringing. Hold on. Yeah, how you doing? Hey, I need you to get in a meeting, blah, blah, blah. Got in the meeting and I heard things I never heard before. And I started thinking, why would I do this if this, then that? This don't make sense. And that's what we are. That's what we are right now. And so I tokenized the most valuable, I guess you could say, real world assets on planet Earth. Now I'm open. If anybody wants to challenge me on that, I will be open to hear you out. But as far as I know, and as far as I'm concerned, no one has did anything even remotely like this.
And what do you mean by you've tokenized the instruments? So you've
So
created the Turon.
so let's just say you had a gold mine.
Yeah.
That had $26 billion worth of gold deposits. Well, can you imagine somebody carrying that? Can you imagine how many years it would take to dig it out? This is kind of a conundrum type of thing. How they handle these type of problems is they take and do an assessment of the projected value. They put it on paper, they get it looked at by second and third opinions, and then they do something to break down the value. See, all of it comes down to how do you break down the value? Even if you just had one single bar of gold, right? You could melt it down and then create 16 coins. That's now that bar of gold. So what I did was, at the request of the chief judge, who is totally competent on the matter, and if I must say, was loud about it and before anyone else. had even said anything about this years ago. He asked me to do this, and I performed. And what I did was I broke down the value of his real world assets and his land instruments. So when I did that, that opened up, I would say, in a whole nother realm of possibilities.
And is this the Turon we're talking about?
Well, I would say that it is factual for me to say this is a currencies, not digital currencies or digital fiat like all these others, USDC, ETH, Litecoin, Bitcoin, USDT, XRP, all these ones, right? And they're probably going to be pissed that I actually mentioned crypto, but I don't care. uh, what it is that I tokenized was his land instruments into A currencies. And that little A stands for assured. So there are many assured currencies. There's not just one of them. But Turon, the reason why Turon was formulated was to be the first one to go out as a test or as a way of connecting all the circuitry. So the acronym is touching utilities running on nodes, which is kind of like a notice to the world that law enforcement is now connected to utilities that everyone's phone is connected to, everyone's internet and TV is connected to. Do you see what happened? Law enforcement is on all these networks, not the fiction law enforcement or the de facto law enforcement. The de jure law enforcement is on all of these networks now with y'all. And this is something that I don't think we could have said back in 2017 or 2015, or pick your date. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so for the general person that's listening to this, they'll be like, what's this Turon? How do I get some? Is this going to be able to be used in the supermarkets and the bars and restaurants and all the rest of it?
All right. This is the question everybody's asking.
Exactly.
Whoo, we finally got there. Thank y'all for bearing with me. I know, I'm an extraordinary extroverted type of person, charismatic, but usually I'm with computers or machines. um, so the thing about the Turon is that it's on the Bitcoin blockchain and anyone can get it. All you need is uh, the Explorer, which will allow you to see it because it's on a what you might call a side chain or a layer two, which is on Bitcoin, but it's underneath it. It's not on the same layer as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is on layer one. It's on the underbelly of it. Now, now, uh, everyone is asking this question, but they're asking the question without a full comprehension of the kind of the question is kind of the wrong question. It's a tricky question, right? You're saying, can I go to the store and buy things? Not you, but I'm saying everyone who hears this is going to say this. The problem that you're not realizing is all of these things that are connected to how you buy things, those things were set up by banks and bankers. This is the problem that the world is having. You can't buy anything without that system. It's not just the currency you're using, it's also the point of sale systems that they have. Whether we're talking about the point of sale system at the checkout Whether we talking about the guns that do the lasers thing with the receipts, or the bank accounts that you have to open in order to get those, or whether or not we talking about Square or PayPal or any of these, they wired the entire globe. And so that's what crypto was created for, was to bank the unbanked, because they didn't just want to settle with having the people that they already had domination over in that market. They wanted everybody. And that's what they did. They created these digital methods to get the rest of y'all. That's kind of the cat. Did I let it out the bat? Meow. Sorry, guys.
So, with that in mind, am I right in saying that the conversations that the WMA are having with these banks, and you referenced earlier that most of these banks now are on board, there is some way of using the Turon within the current system or not?
So when you watch the Matrix, okay, he said, whatever this system is or this matrix is, you feel it when you pay your taxes, when you go to work, when you go to church. What is he talking about? He's talking about this, what we're talking about. And that this, what is this? If it's this, then it's that. It is the system that was wired, the system that took your territorial applicability away, because a third party wired up your lands globally. And if it wasn't so, why can't you just go down the street to the farmer guy and be like, hey, man, that cow looks good? I mean, did I say good? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect. He looks strong. That is a strong, whatever they call them, buck or whatever. Listen, when you get ready, I want that one. That's the one I want, and I'm going to prepay you now for it. What do you want? And he said, well, 1,500 US. See, soon as he said US, that evoked the UCC, and that evoked the POS system we talking about. And that is the problem. That's where all the control comes from. Why couldn't he just say, yeah, so I hear that you got some really nice vegetables. How about he weighs 180 pounds? You just send me over 60 pounds for every month before he's, gets to that point. And then when you bring me the last 60 pounds, I'll give you you see what I'm saying? People don't realize that is what is happening. That's the problem. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is what is strange about crypto. Why would people who want to control or actually benefit over your activities create cryptos? Do you think that's the last thing they should be doing? That gave me all kind of freedom. You can't track me. Crypto is the most trackable thing on planet Earth. It's the most hackable thing on planet Earth. And the narrative that they fed y'all is not the truth. Or I would say the facts, but you probably know the truth. You see? So when people say, how am I going to take the Turon? Am I going to be able to buy stuff at the store? You're not going to be able to go to Walmart and ask for the Turon unless you go to Walmart and demand, or either say, hey, I'm not demanding because I can't tell you what to do. I'm just informing you that I won't shop here anymore unless you have the Turon. You can be real polite about it. Hey, listen, man, if y'all don't got Turon, I'm going elsewhere. That's it. That's it. And they say, well, if it's so valuable, why can't I just buy things anywhere? Because in order for us to install an integrity system, you got to pull the wires out of the non-integrity system. Yeah. So when I was speaking to those, ones that are strong and self-determined, I let them know, like, this ain't rocket science, man. This is that you must be self-determined and you must do things yourself. And if you're getting tired of people getting treated like, you know what, you need to make some changes in how you transact. That is the key. But moreover, we didn't have anything to transact to until WMA did what they did. Did I bring it home, Mel?
Well, you did, but there's still a little bit of confusion here
All
because
right, give me what you got. Give me your
okay,
best shot.
so I get what you're saying, but however, right, we know that the people in integrity are still the lower percentage of the world right now. And so for little old Bobby Joe to go into Walmart and say, "Are you taking Turon?" No, well, up yours, or whatever he says, that's not going to change anything. And that's not going to mean that he can use that Turon to buy anything. So I suppose I'm
All
trying.
right, Mel with the so now watch this. There's people in Bolivia right now, that have goods and services, things that they want to trade, fair trade, that have no way to do it. And they're likely to get the Turon first.
Mhm.
So whether people know it or not or accept it, there's already going to be a lot of activity. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Now, on a different note, the Turon is not just touching utilities running on nodes, it's also assuring them. So if you have $100,000 worth of Turon, you have the assurance for $100,000 worth of crypto, maybe let's say ETH. This is what people don't comprehend yet. Hopefully, they see this video.
Yeah.
So that person may lose out at the store that day and not be able to get their turkey and their tomatoes and their Italian dressing and whatever they wanted. But at the end of the day, if they had the Turon already, they are at the finish line. Everyone else is still running.
Got
Yeah,
you. Okay. So
yeah.
so the so what people need to be doing is investing in Turon right now to
I'm
prepare.
gonna say this as simple as I can, and I'm gonna make sure I look good on camera when I say it. Y'all remember that promise that Bitcoin gave to you in the white paper and everybody got excited and all that? No, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is simply electronic peer-to-peer cash, just like it says in the title. It's Turon that's on the Bitcoin blockchain that actually does what people was excited about.
And I don't want to go off
You're
onto another.
welcome.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah. I don't want to go off onto another rabbit hole, but how does the
Mhm.
Turon compare to the BSV, which is allegedly the real Bitcoin?
Here's the thing, and I dug off into this. You know, as a technician, I would, and you know, I have no biases, you know, or anything negative to say about Mr. Craig Wright. I will say this though, if you are the creator of the original Bitcoin and you haven't moved those Bitcoin that Satoshi had in his wallet, I'm not buying it. That's my choice. And as far as BSV, it may can do the job that BTC does better, maybe 100 times better, and is more secure. I don't know because I didn't go down that rabbit hole because we, the de jure, chose Bitcoin. So you have a problem. The problem is that it's a marketing issue. You need to get your story out more or simply perform. Move the Bitcoin. And people been asking whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is to move this Bitcoin for years. And it hasn't been moved. Now I'm gonna say something controversial. It's a pattern. It ain't just Craig Wright that's not moving this Bitcoin. It's all of these ones that went into the original theft of Bitcoin or manipulation of Bitcoin. You know, the block size wars, all of that. The counterparty, yes, all of that. They haven't moved it. They've seized millions of dollars of Bitcoin from Mount Gox to the Silk Road, all of these places. And unless it was the government that stepped in and sold it, which I know some of it was recently, my thing is whoever has it, had it, you're implicating yourself. Because if you have it to move, that means your keys, your crypto, then you telling us it might have been you that was doing the crimes. And I don't have a problem saying that. If you have the proof and you want to challenge me on that, I'm listening. I'm listening. But I haven't seen anybody step up and explain why these Bitcoins haven't been moved. You
I
see?
might I might share a previous podcast with Tom Bitcoin with you and just see what you think of that descriptive.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I'll say this too, Mel. They missed the boat. They should have been in my ear before I did what I did. And if I had done this on BSB, then BSB would be important block, uh, the most important access token in the world. They missed it.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Right. Thank you for that clarity on the Turon and what it actually is and what it means going forwards. It has sunk in more, which is great for me. Um, Before we bring this to a close, I like to finish these conversations with anything you feel called to share before we finish.
Um, I mean, if you want to help out, if you're asking yourself, this sounds to me like finally after years, some people in their 50s, in their late 60s, and have always known that there was a battle going on. You can say it's between good and evil, right and wrong, or between nation states and whatever you want to call it. That's besides the point. A lot of people have already known that there's something going on and that needs to be addressed. But many people are on the fence because they're not having the confidence in any of the presentments, whether it's on TV, radio, news, at school, at work. No one has presented something that seems to make an impact for the average person, the average Joe with the average, IQ, who looks at things in a lens of what's happening right now. And they stay in the now most of the time. If you want to do something, I'd say the best thing you could do is join these conversations. Of course, subscribe, share, Never Settle podcast. Mel is doing journalism, and you can too. And also, you could join me on X on social media. You can share my posts where I do a thing called Aboriginal Meme Chronicles because the criminals of the world, the developers, the crypto degenerates, the lost people that think they know everything about crypto or any of that and don't really know anything and are actually complicit in circulating digital fiat. Those ones, I try and give them, as much information as I can because they should have got full disclosure and they didn't. But I do this thing called facts over fiction, which is kind of a euphemism for de jure versus de facto. And so you can follow me on X. I'll give you the link, and maybe you can post it inside of the
Do you
side
want
of
to?
your.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you want to say it as well?
Yeah, it's at New Era Music. All right. And you will go to at New Era Music and you will see that says Houston Burrus. HOUSTON, BURRUS. And you can see that I have engaged in giving the people of the world full disclosure for almost 8 months now. And yeah, and you can too. You can share those, you can get the word out, and the people need to know that circulating debt is illegal. And the dollar was supposed to be off the street a long time ago. All right. And if you haven't seen the other videos, go look at that to get into that. But I had to step forward as a technician and let people know that it's kind of a funny story. I took some young youth, age 9 and age 10, and I think it's right here. I showed them this, and I said, "What is this?" And they said, "It's a remote control." I said, "Okay, what if I digitize it? What is it?" And they said, "A digital remote control." And I said, "And what can we do with it?" And they was like, "Probably play the video game." I was like, "Exactly." So this is where I'm at, and you can challenge it if you would like, but you're going to have to come with facts, not fiction. And so what I'm saying to you is a cash dollar, when it goes through an ATM machine, a digital Bitcoin ATM machine, or the other one, the ETH version, can't remember the name of it right now, but it is a digitized fiat globally. Just like that remote control, when you digitize it, is a digital remote control. So what you guys are doing, degenerates, you peppy frogs, you mogs, all of you crying cats, and what's his name? It's Chill Guy, and all you guys, y'all are circulating fiat. Take your chances.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Houston, for giving us your time today. I know you're a very, very busy man. I really appreciate it. And I know the viewers and listeners are going to get a lot of value from today. So thank you very much, sir.
Mel, you are amazing. Awesome. And I thank you for your time this evening.
You're very welcome.